else? We. It's not quite an estimate.
I do that a lot of times, like.
Strong.
His last word.
All right.
Chevy.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, we're live. We're on a recording and we're live on YouTube. Great. I'll call to order this regular scheduled meeting of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, i.e. CJCC, i.e. the Justice League. It is June 20th, 2024. The time is 10:13. And we have a quorum present with some designees. Will you,
Yeah.
for the record?
Yeah, the members that are present are Mike Palmer, who's the designee for Public Defender Chris Rogers. Mike McCurdy, who's the designee for Jenica Clayco from Adult Probation and Parole. Sheriff Jameson Wiggins, Mohawk Police Department Chief Lex Bell, Commissioner Evan Clapper, and myself, Attorney Stephen Stocks. Which is 6, which is what we need for quorum.
Perfect. First up on our agenda was citizens to be heard. Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations, which minutes. We don't have no presentations. And then we have minutes from October 18th. Of last year. And there was just it was another light meeting with about 4 actions on it. Would entertain a motion to approve those. Got a motion, Jameson, second by Beckens. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, our let me get back to today's agenda. Reports. I had a chair meeting with the chairs from across the state with the other committees, and like Stephen was saying before the meeting, the anticipated funding didn't come through in the last legislative session, so we had been kind of working on this dream list so that we could then go after funding, and there's not funding in the pot right now to go after. There was some speculations of kind of where that went, what happened or whatever, but I guess it's worth mentioning that in lobbying efforts, that could be something to highlight, you know, if we find ourselves in these discussions, is to kind of poke the powers that be to you know, fund these efforts, and then and also kind of realizing that anytime, oftentimes it's, you know, the pot's only so big, so when we're going after money for other efforts, it's kind of decreasing money available for other projects. And so that was kind of the reasoning of what happened. Money that I got when asked was that it went other places. Some other kind of sideline, sort of offline, very loose 4-sentence discussions were kind of the possibility if our group doesn't necessarily have a lot of momentum or energy going into it, that there may be the possibility to combine with some other counties. You know, maybe we want to reach out to Carbon or Emory or San Juan or something, and kind of, if we're having a hard enough time to get folks in the room, maybe you know, there's kind of some more regional efforts that can at least kind of keep things going, and then you know, we could have a more informal body meeting with our Grand County rep to take our desires to broader board. Which, if there's not funding and it's kind of like we're just going through the motions, that might be worth something discussing. That's not an agenda item for today, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there that we could stew over, you know, who we might want to partner with if that was something we were interested in, and maybe some initial kind of contacts with some of them to say This is something you guys can do too. Any reports from anyone else on the board? All right, so today's main business is, we still have some unfilled seats. So more people to try to get in the room, but I think if you remember, we had created a spot for some community members. I think originally there was kind of thoughts of like people who had been through the system, but instead, or I shouldn't say instead, the applicants we came up with is a judge and an attorney. And so, if you got links to those, to today's agenda, or if you didn't, it's on, Grant County, Utah Connects.
Grant County, Utah.
Grant County, Utah.net. And under the agenda and minutes, there is the agenda for today's meeting. And we have two applicants, David Tubbs and Christina Sloan. Both submitted applications. It's kind of the generic form. Judge Tubbs is a 26-year judge. Has been active in other boards and community things outside the legal world. And then Christina Sloan, former county attorney, currently various firms locally, extensive volunteer experience. So I don't know if we need further review of these or if people are ready to appoint, what would this be, our 12th board member, 11th board member, so that we would have an odd number.
Wonderful, both,
Yes.
both would make.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
one seat.
I thought you said one.
Yeah,
Like, yes, they're both wonderful applicants.
Yeah, no, I just, yeah. How long was that open for?
It was probably since our last
Probably
meeting.
September, October,
Yeah. And I think, we at one time tried to get folks to attend a meeting to kind of,
We pitched names of individuals that have been involved, perhaps not as defendants, but just other means. And so we try to encourage those individuals to apply, but this board is not, we need something exciting to happen so far, and without funding and without more exciting things, we haven't picked up too much attention.
I think both applicants bring a lot to the table. I think they both have a long history and familiarity with the systems around.
I was court judge, was here 26 years. Then former deputy. Yeah, long experience.
What was our original thought? We wanted somebody that had.
Either we are, we're a little, we've got technically, we're supposed to have 2 attorneys and 2 judges that are already supposed to be here. But it's kind of hard because the judges have busy schedules. And I'm here, Ms. Rogers would have liked to be here, but she's in Alaska, or heading to Alaska. So the goal was originally to get somebody that's been through this process as a victim, or potentially something similar. We have a victims advocate, they're not present, but so the idea was trying to find some other individual out there that could give us a different perspective. What we've been talking about a lot has been pretrial services and a goal for that. Tubbs would have had some experience, or a lot of experience in that. What are the items that we wanted to kind of pitch for? And that was our big one, was pretrial services. And I think originally the goal was we're gonna get this big pot of money.
Yeah.
And then we probably could have handed it out to all these different entities and kind of set up a plan. Now, I think from my perspective, we wanna pick somebody that can kind of show up at these meetings. I mean, really, it's hard that we already have 10. We struggle to get 4 here. So, but we could keep it open for longer if people wanted to. I just don't know that this type of board's gonna.
I wonder if that's what we should do to get somebody from the outside. It's not cop, attorney, get maybe somebody. You know what, to tell you, if this would have happened, maybe it would have helped me out down the road, or I don't, just an opinion.
There's nothing, I don't know of anything pressing that we need to do now. Originally, it was we needed to hurry up and do a plan so that we could have an idea of how we're gonna spend the money. I'm not opposed to leaving it open longer. It would be nice though, because once Commissioner Clapper transitions to Commissioner McCurdy, then we're gonna have the fight to need 6 people to show up, otherwise we won't have quorum.
We're required to meet like 3 times a year.
That's
I think in the bylaws, it's quarterly.
quarterly, right? 4 times a year. And again, if we don't have mandates of what we're supposed to be doing, I mean, that's kind of where it's just.
Was that our requirement in the bylaws or was that?
Yeah.
State? Yeah.
And we could adjust that, but again, to adjust those things, technically, we're supposed to have quorum.
I mean, are some of these people not wanting to be on it anymore? Is that why they're not here? I got a confusing email today that showed that it was crossed out in person, it's only Zoom, so I was trying to get on.
Yeah.
Zoom, and then these guys texted me that thing.
I think
I'm on there, I'm the
yeah.
waiver.
Yeah,
But
It's a harder one to remember because it's not, we
we
don't
booked it over.
have anything too exciting to go forward.
I'll talk to our victim advocate. I'm not
Sure.
certain what's going on today. I did see him in person to see light the fire there. Get in here.
Admittedly, we've had some scheduling hiccups getting this meeting. off the
Yeah.
ground.
yeah, and I'll learn some of that, but we had a previous date that didn't work for.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a part of me that's almost like. We have such little business, it'd be nice to just kind of like be that much teed up for when something does come down the pipe. Rather than like still appointing people, but. I can definitely see the argument of, well, we're not really working on anything specifically, so what's the harm in waiting?
Has there been any direct asks for applications for people that might fit that shoe?
When this originally was created, I reached out to a couple individuals. And they, based on their conversations about other topics and other things, they seemed very passionate about it, but they didn't apply.
I think the biggest thing is that it's just kind of weird to have an even number if it does come down to voting and something, but. What's your gut say? I know you know.
But I think those are all good points.
We have a motion from anybody to do a particular thing?
I think we should just wait. I mean, we're not even.
All right, there's a motion to postpone and a second. All those in favor? Could we let the applicants know that, because of the lack of funding, we're kind of keeping this open until we have more.
Yeah.
Is that something you're willing to draft?
Imagine Chrissy with that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
we can take care of
okay,
Because that's so odd,
No,
the state mandates this and then they don't include any funding.
They didn't have a lot lately.
it. More obligations, no additional pay.
Do more with less. CS. Sorry, we're still on here, right?
We,
yeah, we are, it is on YouTube. The only other business we had on here for today was nominating vice chair. And I think by decree, what do they call it? I think the commission representative is specified as the chair in the morning thing. Anyone interested in being the vice chair?
I'll do it.
Trash dogs.
I thought we were gonna
I'll nominate Chris. No,
Sure.
Happy to help.
Great.
I hate people who do that.
That's okay. Commissioner Curry and I will take it and we'll lead this charge of this
Excellent.
ship, whether it has a rudder or not, I'm not gonna say.
Thank you. It's, you'll be the rudder, we just need some wind in the sails.
There we go. That's it.
All right, so there's a motion to nominate County Attorney Steve Stocks as our vice chair. Second, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Any old business? Any discussion items? I just to make it formal, if anybody is, tuning in on YouTube, there's 6 months left in my second term and I'm not running for reelection. And so I've asked Mike if he was willing to step in. So this is kind of the passing of the torch here. And, I thought that we would be running full throttle and it'd be good for us to have some overlap, but I'm quite confident that he could step in and take over with where we're at.
Like where we're at, pretty easy.
Yeah. Any other discussion items while we're all together?
Suggest setting a date for the next meeting.
All right. So that would be our third quarter, or fourth quarter. Chris, I forget, did we have a formula for how these were scheduled?
Yeah, it's outlined on the state website when we have to have this. And I don't know it off the top of my head. Hold on, let me look.
I just have a random question. What do you think the commission would think about if we try to propose the county just funnel the sheriff's office funding this new free trial and service release program? I mean, you'd have to get us a deputy position, but the county would have to, because it seems like overall, I would have to, including Judge Torgensen, thinks it'd be a great idea. We want to get it up off the ground. Maybe we have to put the bill.
I don't know, I'd have to take the question to commission. There is pushback to more money, as always. Funding's getting cut across the board, but the want is there, so we gotta figure that out. I don't feel like the want would be against, but the finances would be.
I mean, less people are incarcerated, the less money you're spending.
Yeah.
So
And there's definitely a case to be made. I mean, a pitch to be made.
I think that might be a good question for Andy at the UAC too.
Okay.
Of like, if we, if it's likely to get our projects funded, if we kind of keep it going and have some skin in the game.
Yeah.
And I think that if we kind of like make moves or whatever, that they would probably be viewed as more, might be easier to get funded if we're like, this is what we're doing, instead of like, we just have some funding earmarked for our dream list, so.
I've done some research and I've talked to other sheriff's offices like Carbon County. They have 2 pretrial service release deputies. They do. And they do drug court with them too, but I mean, they've already taken the initiative on. And I just. I don't know. It goes hand in hand too, if we build on that. The idea of creating. Pipelines or. Grant for all of our local. Government center, whatever it might be. But that position can be a liaison to a lot of that too. Which would be great. And we've talked, Mike and I have talked about. Well, do we have the staff that can take on? We don't have the staff that can just assume.
Yeah.
So it have to be us full time gig, and so. We're about to report on the curve. That'd be something to talk to the commission about, because if that, I can make that request. See what they think about it.
Would that be an existing, job position, or would that be like a new?
Brandon.
Yeah, I'd say if we started the. You know, the definition of what it would be and what it would look like,
Okay.
a
job description.
yeah. But then. You know, I don't wanna say, yeah, do it up and we'll make it happen, but I think. that-
Well, I'm willing to try. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the closer we are to pulling the trigger,
That's what I'll entirely get a full. Sales pitch, get it fully together. It'll, yeah, I already know it won't fall on deaf ears, but. It all comes down to funding, as we all know.
Do you think it would be something? I mean, I'm asking because you're an experienced commissioner, but do you think it'd be something that I make a request, but then get a letter from this board that says, hey, we really support this too? As well, or? Okay. Because. That might help.
yeah, I think the reason I'm hesitating is because I really would like to, you know, although there's not money on the table now, that this kind of conversation has started around the state saying, what are your needs? Let us help. And I think that, you know, if that's something that this body too is putting work towards identifying and defining, that that's kind of like the model thing that the state is asking for, that then we could, you know, fund it through those avenues.
Reapproach it there.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
I just don't have any faith in the state. I mean, they mandated this county security chief and then put it on the responsibility of the counties to pay for it. It's like. So I just have a hard time seeing the state giving us money for this. If they're not gonna.
yeah, but I think a lot of what the state's trying to do is that they're ultimately responsible for stuff that they're kind of tasking us with. And so if it's their, if the whole justice system ultimately falls on the state, they're telling us, hey, you guys know better what you need, you tell us. Then have the opportunity to tell them what we need and then say, okay, thanks, here's what you wanted. So I, you know, I think that when this first came up, it was, still kind of vague and new, statewide. And I think that if we do the work you're talking about, like a job description, getting a letter from this body, you know, that's exactly what the state's kind of asking for. And that those exercise, instead of like, you know, maybe we get a letter from our commission to send to the state, but it's kind of like, that's the work they're asking us to do. And then we can send it to their desk instead of, okay.
They're gonna want a fiscal note attached to it, what was
Yeah,
salary benefit.
so I'd like this year to kind of run that course and see if it comes together. But I think as close as we are to having it teed up, the easier it will be for them to approve it. And then if they're still floundering, it's that much easier just to pivot and keep it local.
I already have the numbers of what it would cost. I mean, that was still what we proposed to board, so go down that route. The other thing I would mention too is when we first did the drug court tractor position with the sheriff's office, it was funded by a grant. It was only funded for 1 year and then it was the county's responsibility. And we've kind of just been needing that since. And so I get also worried that we put this forward, you know, maybe the state funded it this year, but then they don't fund it 3 years after that. And it's the county's responsibility. Something about.
No, I think, yeah, if it's inevitable, it's kind of worth getting going, but I know that there's other positions with the evidence tech and all that we're still working on, and so it's kind of, it's nice to look at them like whole picture, and if there's an avenue to fund some.
Yeah.
We want to kind of explore all of those.
Have we had any communication with the state on our wish list?
No, it was more, UAC has kind of been carrying the ball in a lot of this, and so that it kind of came. I don't know if it was a shocking surprise, but I think that everyone was kind of expecting it to get funded through the last session. And then when it didn't, it was kind of like, we're all saying, well, what does this mean now? Okay. And so, it just started this last year, so we didn't have like a formal plan of a request. We had a very high level, we did this like mapping exercise of who are all the players in the community and what are our overlaps with other communities and then we've kind of identified this area of pretrial services and kind of. And it was really helpful to hear a lot from the judges too, like around their schedule of like, if somebody gets arrested on a Friday night or something, they don't get processed till Monday morning, but court only happens Monday afternoon, that's not enough time, or like whatever, and so. I'm probably doing a poor job summarizing it, but that's the kind of things that we're trying to address, is like just streamlining the process and not having people sit in limbo so long and for their sake, but also for the whole system being efficient, getting them before a judge and then we're not feeding them and doing everything else, so. And I don't know how much, so at that chair meeting, there was also a list shared of private probation providers. And I don't know how much that plays into pretrial stuff, or if that's kind of, I remember even in the mapping exercise, there were so many like circles that it was like, do these go before this, or does this go after this, but this feeds back into that?
Yeah, I think those are people that have already been sentenced, right? And so there's private probation that they're.
They can sometimes do, if we don't have good probation services, they could argue to the judge that they can get released and utilize private probation. The reason why we don't see them is they're usually utilized by high income or high wealth defendants that commit crimes. They can pay for that.
What authority do these probation guys have though?
Just like any other constable, they report about
So they have
what they're doing.
authority from the state,
So again,
so they do have some authority from the state.
in relation to that individual, yeah, they sign a contract with them and they have obligations. Sometimes they do urine tests, but a lot of times what we see in this area is something like pretrial or not pretrial. Well, sometimes pretrial release with an ankle monitor with AMP. And all they do is the base level, you're on a GPS monitor. If you leave, we'll just call the court. If we're really, really concerned, then we'll call law enforcement. And then private probation, they're more intense. They require more things. And it's kind of a premium service where instead they stop by randomly, but they're nicer when they stop by randomly. They still have obligations. So.
Was that after they've been sentenced?
Yeah, you can do private probation. Sometimes AP&P won't want to take on, let's say we have a class A misdemeanor that's concerning and you have bargained it down, or you have a really bad DUI. And we just sentence on all those. And maybe you argue that he shouldn't get prison, he should get like a third time DUI. And he somehow convinces the judge that instead he wants to have a private probation and he'll do drug testing, he'll do this and this and this. AP&P may say, you know what, we don't want to supervise a class A misdemeanor, but we'll do it for this, or they go out of state, or they go to a different county, or they're in a really inconvenient location. They have the ability to pay for those and set them up. But again, we don't.
Is it on the defendant though?
Yes.
To pay for that? if they
Yes.
want that service?
Yes, it's private, yeah. And so that's the problem. We see the majority of the people that we have that are going through the system, they don't have enough money. A lot of them don't have enough money to even hire an attorney.
Yeah.
And so then they'll go on ankle monitor if it's conditioned on release. But apart from that, they probably can't pay the cost of private probation. Just the per day cost is much more than that. So it's usually either a lack of desire from AP&P to supervise them, or unique circumstances where they're trying to argue that they shouldn't get prison, but they don't want to be an additional cost to AP&P. So, and it's neat. It's it's nice for people to have the money, but
Sounds like a good retirement gig.
yeah, it can be that private investigation. Yeah.
Quarterly meetings is all the state says.
Okay,
So we do have to submit a report by November 30th of each year. That details our efforts for this year. So if it was up to me, I would suggest a meeting in mid to late September and another one in mid to late November. So we can talk about the report in the September meeting, finalize it in November meeting,
What's the date on the submission?
November 30th.
that sounds great, late September.
Yeah, third week, fourth week.
I like the third weeks, because it's, and we've been doing them Thursdays or just having them Thursdays?
This is kind of play out that way.
Was it a Tuesday at one point? I don't know. Tuesdays or Thursdays make any difference to anybody?
Thursdays are better, Tuesdays are court meetings, but
It's also city council.
So, yeah, should we go for Thursday, September 19th?
Yeah,
Thursday, September what?
19th?
2 p.m. again, or we want to make it later? Do we get better attendance later today?
This is a good time. Like I said, I just tried to get Zoom. It wasn't
Yeah,
better.
yeah, no, it's,
I was like, I'll book it over. This is.
You can't run very fast, so
I walked over. Yeah,
so what happened? Well, sorry.
a couple surgeries.
get fixed.
Great. Any other,
Wait, let's do a November meeting. We want to be
Okay.
before November 30th.
for November 30th?
Don't want the week of Thanksgiving, so 14 or 21.
Well, I would say 21, but. Mike, do you have any?
14 and 21 are open right now.
By then you're gonna be running the show.
I understand.
When's Mike taking over?
We'll have to get it on a commission agenda. I don't, do we need to do any action with this body? Or with that, yeah,
It's a commission liaison.
yeah, we'll get it on a future agenda item.
21st or the 14th?
14th and 21st are both completely open, so what's better for you guys?
Why don't you go 14th in case there's some,
14th mid-month.
and then that gives a couple weeks to get everything drafted and submitted. Great. Well, at least we got through our agenda. Anything else while we're all together? That brings us to the end of our agenda, so I would adjourn this meeting at 2:44. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I guess the 2:45.
Oh,
Thank
there we
you.
go.
Yeah, that's just for us to know.
Thanks, Chrissy.